So within Bootstrap, again, it's a matter of designing within Bootstrap's classes, and you can also customize everything. So if this type of navigation bar doesn't work for you, then you can work with within styling and create an additional type of navigation bar. So the nav is built into Bootstrap, so you can use these types of nav tabs or nav pills that we talked about in the previous lesson, or you could use their default navigation bar. So they do have a class nav bar, and when we go into the Bootstrap CSS, you can see that it's already predefined. So there's a lot of stuff already within the nav bar. Just looking through it, you've got fixed bottom drop down menu, so how that's going to behave. You've got your navigation bar for the different media settings, navigation bar right, and then just overall nav bar. So you've got minimum height is 50, margin top 20, position relative, border 1, solid transparent. You can see that's already got a lot of stuff built in, as well as in the media classes. And here it's got the collapse, and again built in within the media classes. So you got a whole bunch of stuff here that is built in with the nav bar, and this is what actually makes it really useful to work with Bootstrap, because it's got all of this stuff built in. There's already settings if it's the nav bar is within the container, and all of that. So there's really a lot of stuff already built in and predefined, so it's well thought out. But as I said, it depends on your styling, and you might not like this type of nav bar. You can see here that it's already set when you resize it, that it's really set up very smart, that the navigation stacks and it restacks as needed. When you look at nav bars, so there's going to be quite a lot of stuff with nav bars. So you can do an inverted nav bar, and what that will do, so when we go back to the page, you can see that this is a regular nav bar. So they haven't inverted it. So you have an option to actually invert the navigation bar, because there's an example down here at the bottom, and what this does is this inverts the default colors. So you can do a nav bar inverse, and within our example, if we add that nav bar inverse, that should invert our colors on the nav bar, so make it black instead of white, and same with the text. And this sometimes the inverted is a little bit better because it does stand out, and again it's dependent on the themes that you're using. So just going back to Bootwatch, you see that this is the theme, and when you go to the nav bars, you've got the regular one and the inverted one. So they're going to be blue, but they're going to be slightly different colors when it's inverted. And the same goes for all of these other themes that you're able to pick out. And I'm just going to pick another one, and you can see that inverted is gray, and then this is a darker gray. So two different options here for the nav bar, and this is really good because if you've already designed your website and you say, okay, well, my nav bar isn't really standing out as much as you want, you can just add that inverted and allow it to invert, and that's going to allow it to stand out a little bit more. Also with the nav bar, you've got an option here to fix it to the top. So what that does is, when you notice when I scroll down, I'm losing my navigation bar, and sometimes this isn't the best idea on mobile. You might want it to stay at the top so your mobile users can click through and access any one of these important links here you have at the top for navigation. So all, again, depending on your design, so if you do have a link somewhere else, or if these links they're down at the footer as well, you might not necessarily need that, but to keep it at the top usually is a good idea for mobile. Do is add in navbar-fix top, and you can see that now in our example, after we refresh it, it does actually stay at the top. So no matter how far we scroll down, no matter how much content we have, this is going to work, and it's going to stay at the top. We'll have fixed bottom. So this is another cool feature that you can have within Bootstrap. So sometimes maybe the content at the top, you've got some images and you really want to highlight those, and the navigation isn't as important. So you can fix the navigation at the bottom, and you can see this works for all the sizes as well, fixing the navigation for the bottom. You don't really see that often, but some cases that might be something that might be required or necessary. So that was another option, as well as if you want to do static to the top. So that's just the regular where you're keeping it static at the top. So even when it's scrolling, this is what we were looking at before. When you scroll, you no longer see that. So initially, you see that when I refresh the page, and now when I scroll down, I no longer see my menu at the top. So that's generally not the one that I'm using very often, but it depends on your design and what your circumstances are. So that was also, you have some options here for alignment, and to move it over to the right. So sometimes this is a good idea to kind of separate out that link from your navigation links. All you have to do is add in nav bar right just below here in the ordered list, because you want it only to affect this ordered list, so you're aligning it to the right. You can also add it in additional classes, and again, it's just like with anything within Bootstrap, you really have a lot of options here with the classes and playing around with them and adding different classes into different areas to really get that customized look that you're looking for. You can also add in that link there on the far right. So if you do navbar right there, that's going to add that in on the right hand side. If you remove out navbar right there, or you can put a navbar left, again, depending on how your styling wants to work. So this would just reverse out what you had originally and initially. And here, when we resize it, again, it stacks out and it works for mobile as well as for desktop sizes. Well, you have additional options with your navigation bar. So if you wanted to kind of separate it out and you want to keep some items over here on the left, some on the right, all you have to do is create a new ordered list and type in where you want that to show up. So I'm just going to leave it at the default, and I've added another about contact, which you can see here in the example. So again, a lot of options to customize, and the more items you want to add within your navigation bar, just add another ordered list, and then you can take advantage of the built-in classes for navbar that are available within Bootstrap. So additionally, one other thing, if you've been following along, you probably noticed that when I was resizing, we didn't have that collapse in there. And if you do want to have this collapse, so this is just a standard thing when you go to a mobile site that you see this menu and you can collapse it, because as we know that whenever you're on a small screen, all this real estate becomes very valuable. So you don't want to be taking it up with a menu that the user might already be aware of, or they might not be looking to navigate and they want to read this content. You also want to keep your navigation at the top. You don't want to move it to the bottom. So adding in this type of collapsible menu, navigation menu, is going to be ideal. And so these are going to link out to the same links as we had before. And luckily, Bootstrap has a built-in option for doing this. And all we have to do is we just have to add in above here. So we had our original Bootstrap, and what we're doing here, we're adding in this collapsible button. We're doing type button, class navbar toggle, so that Bootstrap understands this is what this is going to do, and it's going to attach that functionality. Using JavaScript for that, data toggle, so we know that this is the collapse, that's what's going to happen, and we're setting a target for the collapse. So here we just used a class, we created a class nav-toggle, and we've typed in that class. So this is not a Bootstrap class, so we could call it anything we want, Udemy if we wanted to, and as long as we're identifying it over here as this is the way that we're identifying it, we can access that target, and Bootstrap understands within the JavaScript that this is the target and this is where the collapse is supposed to happen. And then within here we added collapse as well, so that we know that this is the class that's going to collapse, and nav bar collapse as well. And this gave us that functionality of having it the ability to collapse. You can also do something like ID Udemy, and we could just do it like that. So this would do the same thing. As long as we're identifying our target, our collapse should still work. And we're just going to double check that, and we see that, yeah, indeed it does still work. So as long as you're setting the target, setting the toggle as collapse, adding in this button, and then this span is just typical span for the collapse button. So this is just a standard type button, and I've just changed it to X, although you can't really see it here. Typically, you want to keep this these icons in, because this is just a standard format that web users come to know that this is a collapsible menu, and they don't really need much more than just these three icon bars to know that this is what this function is going to do. And we're also just going to remove out this one here to make it a little bit more readable, so we don't have those two sets of navigation menus. So now we've moved to just the one navigation menu, and we can see that when we move our page, it collapses really nicely and it works with our responsive design. And it can be opened and closed, and it's actually covering over this initial header, but we're going to work on that later as well.